Krishna, welcome to the studio. Welcome to Samen. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So, my first question would be for those listeners who don't know you, who is Krishna Prem?
Wow. So Krishna Prem, of course, is just a name. And how I got that name is as a young man, I was unhappy with being in America. I had a problem with the U.S. Army. I have a young voice, but I'm a little bit older than our audience. And I was having difficulty with the U.S. Army and the Vietnam War. And I had never said no before in my whole life that I remembered. But it was very difficult to fight once the enemy was explained to me. I said, my gosh, I actually would like to go to Vietnam. They sound like great people. So I had a little bit of difficulty, and the U.S. Army decided I shouldn't be in the U.S. Army, and they gave me a discharge that I was unable to adjust to the military lifestyle, which was, for me, a very nice way to say it. But it didn't make me happy. And then I went to England just to get away from this no. And there I was a bartender, and I met so many people that were in World War II that were so happy to have served for their country, and I basically was thrilled for them and disappointed with me, and I kept this as a dark secret. And when I traveled to India, still escaping myself, and I met Osho, and the first thing he said to me was, guess what? The revolution is inside of yourself. And for me it was a miracle, because then I could look at my own life, my own war, not the U.S. government, not my girlfriends, not my parents, but I had to talk to myself, work with myself, find out who I am, and understand the anger was that very question, I don't know who I am. So I was very thrilled with Osho, and this was without saying a word to him, so I was very touched. And I was very happy, and I was stoned naturally. And then immediately I began to come down, because he said, your new name, if you would like to be in the present, is now going to be Krishna Prem. And the word Krishna was very, very disappointing for me. I didn't like the name Krishna. It reminded me of people at the airport selling books and begging, and it didn't turn me on. And it was really fun, because as I was going up, being in the moment again, I was going down because my name was so difficult for me. So when Femke says, hi, Krishna Prem, I like it a lot more than when Michael says, hi, this is Krishna Prem. So it's difficult. But it
still is difficult?
Well, it's still, now that I've written a book and I'm talking to you and you're asking me who I am, it still brings up a tingle.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I must say that Krishna means ecstasy and Prem means love. I mean, an ecstatic love. And as I might have suggested, I was pretty miserable when I met Osho. And when he said, you will grow into your name of ecstatic love, I didn't believe him. But I now have a fragrance. I now have a feeling for what he said to me that day. And that's why I'm still called Krishna Prem and not Michael Mogul.
Right. So I've read your book. You've written a book called G, You Are You. And then you have enlarged the G, the U, and the R and the U. So it reads Guru.
Right.
And in it, you describe how you landed in India, in Goa, with your then girlfriend. And at a certain point, after an unfortunate encounter with the Indian water, causing you to have diarrhea, I think.
Yeah.
You had a crisis in your relationship, and then you both started to read as a way of dealing with this relationship crisis or argument. You just sort of tuned out of each other and started to do your own thing and to read. And you started to read the book Seeds of Revolutionary Thoughts. Seeds of Revolutionary Thought, and it really touched you.
Right.
What touched you so much in this book?
Well, I should say that most of the readers haven't heard of that book, but they did hear the book that my girlfriend picked up, which was Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. That's about 2,000 pages. Mm. And I knew that I was in trouble. I mean, it's
when your girlfriend picked such a thick book.
Yeah, I knew this problem in our relationship, which we had just coming off our honeymoon. I could see that I didn't even know if we could make up. So in order to be with her, not even fighting, I decided I better read a book, and I picked I picked the smallest book I could find. And it was called Seeds of Revolutionary Thought, and it was written by a man named Acharya, which I couldn't read. So, but I didn't mind, and I loved what was in the book. I went to the seaside with a pot of herb tea, and I started to read a page, and I started to sip the tea, and a boat was crossing the sunset, and my God, I just got happier and happier, as if, that song, Killing Me Softly with Your Words, singing Your Life with My Song by Roberta Flack. That was the feeling I had. How does this guy know who I am when I don't even know who I am myself? And I just started falling in love with this gentleman that obviously wasn't alive, and Jesus wasn't alive, and I was all alone, and I just started to be happy, which was a new phenomenon in that period of my life. Not orgasms with a woman, but happiness, just for being alone. Most people think happiness is meeting somebody else. Happiness is really being alone with who you are. And I started to get ecstatic and happy, and I just put all my energy in this one-mast sailboat crossing the sunset and sipping a tea and reading a page. And when that boat crossed that sunset, that one-mast sailing boat crossed the sunset, I literally became so ecstatic that I disappeared. I was weightless, mindless, emotionless. I was one without being anything at all. And I loved the experience, except it scared me a little bit. And when I came back into my body, into my mind, I started screaming at God. I need to meet somebody like this right now. My experience tells me that you are not going to appear in my life. I need someone to guide me so that I understand what just happened. Now, when you scream at the heavens in India, it's not like screaming in the lights of plane. People respect madness in India. And I started screaming, and within a moment, I'd never even heard of meditation. I had hundreds of disciples because I was talking to God. And it was so cute. And the experience stayed with me. I left my disciples in Goa, and I went on the hippie trail towards the Himalayas when I met Osho. And when I went to see him, and even though I became ecstatic being with him and knowing the revolution is inside of myself, I was laughing because inside of myself I was always also saying, I want to meet this guy, Acharya, Acharya, Acharya. Even though he's not alive, I know that that's who I want to be with. But I'll take Osho. Why not? And so I became Krishna Prem, and I did love him, but not like that guy I read the book at the beach with. And when I walked out of his room, and it was just him and me alone, when I walked out, someone approached me and gave me a present called Seeds of Revolutionary Thought by Osho. He had changed his name to Osho. And I loved it, and I tell the story, but I can remember just giggling and walking along because this was the way it is, period.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story, and it's you cannot think of you cannot make it up, huh?
You can't make it up,
No.
and there were very, very, very few people around Osho at the time, so he gave me more energy than he would ordinarily. As he got more popular, I got less popular with him.
Right.
But that's life, and also I immediately loved people visiting. I love when people take their chains off. I love when people become free. And for me, that's more valuable than sitting on Osho's lap,
Right.
And that's been my life, and that's why I'm on this radio show, and that's why I wrote a book, and that's why I lead little 2-hour meditations, because I want to share with people that you're in your own way. It's that simple. You're in your own way. I can't explain it any more than that, but very, very, very few people are simply spontaneous and in the moment, don't know who they are, feel intimate about it, and say, thank you, existence.
And are you in this state?
I'm in the state when I share. I must.
Right.
I want to say if you were with me this morning when I woke up, you wouldn't have me on your radio show. But as soon as I meet a friend over a cup of tea, or I have lunch with a friend, or just share with anyone, I just love to share. So I must say that I'm happier being here right now with a person listening to this radio show than being alone. And yet I realize I am alone. I just like to share. I like to breathe out as you breathe in, and I like to breathe in as you breathe out. I'm a social animal.
Right. And I read in your book that while many people think they go searching for a guru or a master, and like people when searching for Osho,
Yeah.
actually in India there's this saying or way of looking at it that says, well, you didn't search him, he called you. You listen.
Yeah.
Do you feel that Osho called you?
Well, I think, this masters always talk in terms of poetry. You know, I'm crazy about Osho, and if he wants to have called me, that's great. And if I know I had a need deep inside me that I wasn't aware of until I met him, but I don't want to talk for Osho anyway. But I do love him, and if he wants to call me, that's sweet. It's very sweet. I don't buy the hocus pocus of, and I want to suggest right away, because I do love Osho, and it comes out that way. But the reason I wrote the book was not for people to quit their job in Amsterdam and buy a one-way ticket to India and live in a cave and say thank you. It's about give and take. I find that I'm too in, and I find many people too out. And my whole effort is in balance, and that's why I love to be with people, because I give, they take, within moments. They give and I take, because if I'm enlightened, you're enlightened. If I'm a piece of shit, excuse me.
No worries.
No, you're like that
it's
too.
Dutch radio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot. I love Holland. I love it here. I'm just saying that we are all one, appearing as a speaker and a listener. There's nothing more to say tonight. If you can get that, you're enlightened. And just you and I are two fingers of one hand. We're one existence appearing as two friends. It's so very, very simple. And once you know that we're existence appearing as two friends, competition ends, right and wrong ends, life and death ends. It's just oneness. Now, that doesn't mean I can live it all the time, and I don't want you to live it all the time, but it's great to watch that separation is hell, and oneness is heaven, and that's all there is to it. As soon as a thought comes, we are separated. As soon as a game comes that we're competing, we're separate. That doesn't mean when I play tennis, I heard you mention Zenith, that doesn't mean I play to lose. I play to have fun, and I try and leave the game on the court. Doesn't always happen. I don't want any of the readers and listeners to think this guy is far out. I'm in a process called This Is My Life, and I just want to share that you can be in your life if you touch who you are instead of touch your conditioning. There's not one Dutch person listening. You are existence appearing as a Dutch person, and this is very, very important. It's fine to have Dutch conditioning. It's fine to be a man. It's fine to be a woman, but it's not who you are. You are, and that man and that woman appears in who you are, and that Dutch conditioning appears in that man and that woman in who they are. So what happens is, because our parents and our teachers, they have such a hard time trusting existence, they teach that we're separate and we have to try really hard and we have to get ahead of people. But basically, go back into who you are and share, and still be total. That's the fun. Once you come from who you are, it doesn't change anything, except it's more fun to know you're in a game called existence instead of I have to win this game called existence.
Wow, so many beautiful words.
Oh, yeah.
I will let the listeners take it in for a little bit, and we're going to some music. We'll be back with... Dus welkom terug bij Samen. Ik ben in gesprek met Krishna Prem. And Krishna just told us about the value of sharing, actually, and how sharing brings out... I would say it brings out the best in you. It can bring out the best in you. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yet, if you feel that aloneness brings out the best in you, that's the way to go. Not everybody's the same. We're all unique, and we've been put into 7 or 8 boxes. You know, a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief. We have to break out of the boxes to find out what is our passion. What is our passion? You know, I don't know if it's a story to tell, but it's from my book about. I had one-time lunch at the Vermeer Hotel. It's right up the street. It's a 1-star Michelin restaurant. My gosh, I had no idea, but I rode my bicycle over there. And, of course, the 2 gentlemen that were buying me lunch, they drove their car. And everybody in Amsterdam knows the guy on the bicycle gets there first. So they were late. And I was relaxing and trying to wick the sweat off, you know. And the waiter was all over me. And I said, my God, you know, I don't need a waiter. I would like to be alone for a little while and just catch my breath. And he said, it's my job to be a waiter. What would you like? And I said, my gosh, tell me what you're going to do tonight. And he said, well, I have a 1-year-old son, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to play with my son. I said, I feel so bad for your son, you know, because the way you're treating me as a waiter, when I've asked you to leave me alone, you're going to treat your 1-year-old son as a waiter, and that's just terrible. And he said, well, what would you do? And I said, well, I would go home, and the first thing I would do is take my waiter hat off, and then I would take a shower, and I'd put my daddy hat on, and then I would play with that little boy. And he said, wow, that's far out. I might try that. And I said, what happens in the world is people are so in a rush now that what they do is they go home as a waiter, and they throw on their husband hat right on top of their waiter hat. Then they throw their daddy hat on top of the married hat, on top of the waiter hat, and you end up feeling very, very heavy. And the beauty about playing with a 1-year-old boy is they're enlightened. You know, they're not conditioned enough not to be free. That will happen, and it's happening now 4 or 5 years old. So he said, I'm going to try that. It sounds really good because my son doesn't feel that happy to see me, and I'm going to try this technique. And he said, is that meditation? And I said, well, actually, meditation is that space in you when you aren't wearing any hats at all. So it's that space when you don't have your waiter hat on and you haven't got your father hat on yet. You're naked, and that's what happens in the shower. You're naked, and there's a very good chance that you'll bump into creativity and passion and joy while you're in the shower. And when you see your boy, then he's going to feel great. He said, wow, that is really hot. I love it. And, of course, by then my 2 friends came, and he became a waiter again. And I don't know if anybody's eaten at the Vermeer restaurant, but I didn't have enough money to pay. I mean, it was pretty expensive. But I did like to put down the tip because, hey, that's what even a bum like me would do. So I put down 20 euros on the table, and he was very, very thankful. And he came up to me afterwards when in our last moment together, and he gave me back the 20 euros. And I gave it back to him, and I said, what kind of father are you? You know, you need that 20 euros for your son. Enjoy. Buy him a little present. But don't take the present into the shower with you, because when you're in the shower, remember, I want you to be totally naked. I think you'll see how much your son enjoys you now. Especially if you give him a present. Everybody likes presents.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So he loved it. I never went back to that restaurant, but I think he's pretty good. I think he's okay.
Yeah. But Krishna, when you started to meditate, how did that feel for you? Because I hear from a lot of people in the beginning, their mind is so active, and their conditioning is so active, and it's really resisting. Part of them is really resisting their efforts to go into silence because, you know, I think that part just knows that you're trying to dismantle it. Actually.
Wow, what a great question. And you know, it's very, very simple. You know, all this tension is who you are at the periphery, who you are, how you act. But if you look into tension, you'll see who you are. And then tension becomes clothing. And once you know that tension is not who you are, you can take it off. And once you take it off, you can be naked. But that doesn't mean you might even be more tense now, So it's a game of give and take. When I say the word guru in my book, it's not for you to go to India, and it's not for me to come to Amsterdam. The first U in the word guru for me is existence. I am existence. And the second U in my book, Guru, is I am my conditioning. And for me, it's in the balance. So what happened to Krishna Prem, this guy that is talking to you on the radio, he went so far into the non-material world that I forgot what it's like to live in the world. So I came back to Amsterdam, and I come back to America, and everybody is so worldly that they forgot that their existence. So for me, life is in the balance. I can't help anybody with tension and thought unless they're willing to know that it's not who they are. In other words, I'm going to be far out for a minute. I know this will upset a lot of people, but what we learn in meditation after a while is you are not your body, you are not your religion, you are not your emotion, you are. And you are before you even knew you had a body, before you knew you had a religion, before you knew you had a sex called male and female. So if you come from a place where I am today, meaning I'm 38 years old, I just got home from work, what am I doing listening to this fool on the radio? I have things to do. Take the radio into the shower, get naked again, and then when you come back, put those same problems on, but you'll find that they're just problems, and they begin to dissolve. Your anger begins to dissolve. Your emotions begin to dissolve. And they'll come back, so don't worry about it. We're in the game, because that second you called your conditioning, once it's no longer your conditioning, we still have to pay the rent. We still have to take a job. We still have to share. And we'll actually might even be more bothered that we have to do that now that we're free. So free people still work, but they know the difference between freedom and work. And most people think that if they make enough money, they're free. Well, we all know what happens in that moment. When you get laid off, you just get crazy. So what I learned from Osho in India is that people like ourselves from the West are so far away from meditation that he suggested we scream. He suggested we dance. He basically suggested we need to exhaust our mind, body, in order to feel our spirit again. So oftentimes we breathe chaotically and then let go through screaming or crying or dancing. And then after that, we can start to think about meditation. So you need to have a witness going on that can watch how upset you are. Once the witness watches the upset begins to be so big that you can walk right through it. You can go out to dinner. Upset will still be there. You can come home, put the upset back on. So here's a great idea of meditation. What I do, is if I have a problem, I close the doors and windows, and I sit there and I get crazy. And what meditation is, I am crazy, and I'm going to open up the doors and windows and see what is next. We have all heard the expression, this too will pass. Anger will pass. Judgment will pass. Hate will pass. And if you have the windows open and the doors open and you participate in your life, there's a good chance this too will pass. A lot of people I see just hold on to pain because it's the only thing they know. It's an ego trip. Pain is an ego trip.
Often it's an addiction.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. As an addiction, you can imagine. It's an addiction. The only good thing about addictions is they're so big that if you ever begin to witness, they may fall away even quicker than someone that's had a great life because they don't know how conditioned they are. In all the therapy groups I've done around the world, the people that had the worst lives, and you cry just hearing this story, once they wake up to it's just a story, And once they start to take their emotional values out of that story, they heal instantly. That's the work of our girlfriend Byron Katie.
Right.
That's the work when she says, I saw her work with a woman, I'm sorry, but the woman was raped by her own grandfather, and Byron Katie helped her so much, and she said, your grandfather raped you once. I congratulate you for saying no the second time. But you're raping yourself every day for the last 30 years. She was raped when she was 15, and now she's 45. So the grandfather's out of the picture, but she's been raping herself every day. That is pain. So what Byron Katie helped her to see is we can't change the facts. You were abused. But we can take the emotional equivalent away from that so that you can be free again. And by the way, when I suggest you're free, that doesn't mean you call your grandfather up and invite him for dinner. He needs to grow up too. But he can't grow up without you growing up. He feels so bad for what he did, he'll never grow up. You need to heal for who you are. And meditation means I am going to watch what happened to me, knowing that I was helpless because I wasn't a human being yet, because I didn't have the tools to say no, stop. Once you have the tools, you can go back into that moment, and what Osho would always say, like Byron Katie would say, we're not going to live it again. We're going to live it for the first time, and we're going to say, I can take care of that little boy in me, that little girl in me. I'm going to stand up and leave this room and be free, and I'm going to participate with people that respect my boundaries. It's beautiful, and Byron Katie is a beautiful woman. But that's what it's about. It's about becoming free of the emotional pain. That's what we all have to do, and we all have to do it. If you had the best life in the world, if you're sitting there with money in your pocket and your kids are all over you and everything, you still have work to do. You need to not find out what your job is and what your bank account is. You need to find out who you are, really, now.
And you will help our listeners with that, with your workshop coming Friday to get started on that path, won't you?
Oh, absolutely. Right now we're just talking, so the talking is far out. I personally have said some things tonight that will change my life again too. Because one of the reasons I speak and one of the reasons I lead groups is because I need to meditate. And if I wasn't Friday night at the ABC. Treehouse, nice name. If I wasn't there Friday night, I'd probably go out for a beer. Yeah. And because I'm going to meditate, I'm going to have a beautiful experience, and you're going to have a beautiful experience. And then there's a circle of energy between me and the audience. It's very, very beautiful. And we'll be doing techniques that night. It won't just be me talking on the radio.
We'll do some meditations together?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is in the breathing in and the breathing out. And first, I create you feeling really good about yourself, because when you breathe in, you touch existence. And when you breathe out, you may breathe out your name. So you end up saying, wow, existence isn't so bad because it's me, And then we're going to work on the pain and suffering in the world, because once you're who you are, the first thing that happens to you is you feel bad for everybody else. And you need to get to a point where the only thing you can do for another person is to love and give them space. You cannot help anybody. This is a big illusion in our Western world. So we're going to learn to love people.
That we can save others.
Oh my God, of course, that's what we think we can do. And then the people that want to be saved are waiting for you to save them. And you can come up with a pretty vicious circle here. Sometimes you get lucky, though. Sometimes you do help somebody and they thank you. But that's what I like about existence. Everything works. But I'm here to tell you, for the one person in the whole city of Amsterdam that you can help by just helping, you didn't help yourself and you didn't help all the other people.
Well, Krishna, this is all so interesting. I could talk to you for hours, but we're going to go to a little break now and have the news, and we'll be back after 8 o'clock with this interview. Thank you very much. Welkom terug bij het tweede uur van alweer de 32e aflevering van Samen. Ik vervolg mijn gesprek met Krishna Prem who is sitting next to me on this very hot Wednesday night. It is hot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hot and very nice, though.
You like it, don't you?
I love it. It's like you can feel like as my body gets older, the heat just enters and you can feel a little looser.
Loose
and natural. My mind is always loose and natural, but it's nice when my body feels it too.
Right, because I know you will be going to India soon, to Pune.
Yeah.
And what's the temperature there? In Celsius, not in Fahrenheit, please.
Well, right now it doesn't matter if it's hot or cold because it is raining.
Oh, is it?
It's called the monsoon.
Right.
And it's incredible how much it can rain. And so India has 3 seasons, actually, which winter, summer, and rain. And so the winter is perfect. The summer is hot. Hot. And then it rains. So it's all... but you can make it work, and I built a beautiful home there. And, I spend 6 to 7 months a year there, and my problem is that I met a Dutch woman. That's why you kids are listening to me tonight. She, by the way, doesn't listen to me anymore, but that's why I'm here. And
you say my problem is I met a Dutch woman. I don't think it's very flattering, Krishna.
Oh, I know. I think that... Yeah, that's cute. I mean, I'm sure I'll get hit for that. Yeah, actually, and my bliss is a Dutch woman.
Right, that's better.
It's good, it's the honeymoon is over. It's a very real relationship, and but through her, I've been able to spend summers here, and I want to thank the listeners for just having a wonderful country that I visit. I find myself enjoying Amsterdam more than the Dutch friends. I think it's still conditioning. I don't want you guys to pour a glass of wine and say, I'm so happy I'm Dutch, because you need to look at your life just as much as I do. But it's what is conditioning? Conditioning is 99% truth, 1% lie. And when you learn to meditate, you'll find out that water boils at 100 degrees. It doesn't boil at 99 degrees. So So I like being in Holland because it's 99% wonderful. But that 1% that you're not appreciating is just a small thing called the truth. A small thing called existence. I love it here, but I would love to see you guys actually jump into that last 1%. It is so worth it. So worth it. And by the way, you do, because what does conditioning say to us? It says, you don't need to be enlightened because I'm going to take care of you. And society cannot take care of you.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is no one can take care of you but you. So if you're comfortable at work and you're comfortable in your relationship and you're comfortable, with your children, you've all been comfortable, and then you've all been uncomfortable. And what we're all voting for is comfortable. And comfortable comes from who you are, not from your wife and your children and your job. And I'd love to tell a little story about a German boy that came to India, and he asked my teacher, what's it like in India? And the teacher said, well, what's it like in Germany? He said, well, it's really structured and very real, and I only have 3 weeks off because I have to go for my exams, and everybody's very uptight. I had to get away. That's why I'm here. What are the people like in India? And he said, well, you're going to find that they're just like that. They're uptight, and they're stressed out, and they're materialistic now, and they've dropped spirituality. It's just like Germany. And then he turned to the Dutch boy, and he said, what's it like? And he said, I love Holland. I love the people there. I just felt that I wanted to get away so I could even share even more. I needed to learn some tools of meditation and bring them back home. And what are the people like in India? And the teacher said, they're just like that in India. You're going to love it here. You're going to love it here. So basically, you bring your problems with you wherever you go. Right. You might take them off for 10 minutes while you have dinner or make love, but as soon as it's over, many of us put the problems back on. Just leave them for a little while. Leave them by your side.
So when you left the States and you went to Europe, to London, and later on you went to India, and then you encountered yourself again in India, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, India is fantastic because that is the home of meditation. For example, when you go to Ibiza and you're watching the sunset, your eyes are open and you're chatting with friends. Oh, what a beautiful sunset. And what they say in meditation is, you've already said too much. What a beautiful sunset. The sun was setting for 3 hours and you said, what a beautiful sunset. And the master will slap you. What, you talk too much. Never come near me again. And when you go to India and there's a beautiful sunset, you sit, and not only that, you close your eyes. It's so beautiful to watch. People begin to close their eyes. I don't know why that is. Maybe America is the home of the dollar and India is the home of the master. But there is a difference. There is a qualitative difference. And I find Amsterdam right in the middle. People really are materialistic, but they're actually pretty loving also. And that's one of the reasons I love being here. But I think I like money and I like meditation, and you need a marriage of the two. If you only have money without meditation, you've just wasted another lifetime. If you're just meditating without being able to pay the rent, you've also wasted another lifetime. So I don't know. It's in the balance. You have to find that out for yourself. It doesn't mean a high-powered job does not lead to meditation. Because what Osho said to me, and I always hated him for this, because he said, the height of tension leads to the height of relaxation. So if you guys are really uptight from today, just jump. Just jump into relaxation. Pour a glass of wine, giggle with your partner. You're not at work anymore. You're at home. Just begin to relax so that tomorrow you begin to be tense again. But you'll have a cycle called tension leads to relaxation.
And Krishna, what was the most difficult conditioning that you had to break through on your own path to becoming yourself?
Wow. I think the strongest thing that happened for me is that I didn't have parents. They died when I was very young. They died when I was young. And I was adopted by my own sister, who was 16 when I was 1. And we had a fabulous relationship this lifetime. But in my heart of hearts, I knew she wasn't my mother, And in other words, my love didn't come from my belly, from the umbilical cord. It came from just, wow, thank you for saving me. Thank you for loving me. And it was very difficult for me to get in touch with my mother because she died before I could verbalize words, 9 months old. So what happened is when I did primal therapy when I was 50, and I'm sitting there, and this is why I want you guys to know that my life started at 50. There I am in the room doing primal therapy. My teacher Osho had died. My father died. My mother died. The sister mother that I was just talking about, she died. I was in the room alone. There was nobody I loved in the room, including me, because usually if I say, I love you, you have to understand, in order to be alive this lifetime, the I and the you have to drop. I love you becomes love. Drop the I, drop the you. Just love. And so I'm in this room, and I didn't have that experience at the time, and everybody was dead. So of course, I hate to say it, but I had a feeling that I'd be better off dead myself. And then all of a sudden in therapy, we were just playing with some yarn, just little kids playing like being little kids in primal therapy. And there was a ball of yarn that represented my real mother, and there was a ball of yarn that represented me. And in the middle of that circle was one little piece of string separating me and my real mother, and that actually was my sister. So even though to the world it looked like she was loving me and protecting me, she was also keeping me separate from my real mother. So the best moment in my life is when I picked up that string, and I didn't throw it away because I loved that string, but I just moved it aside. And in that movement of that string, I was able to be in contact with my mother in a nonverbal way, just as an energy experience.
What did you feel?
Well, I can't. How can you explain something like a feeling? It was a rush of energy that I finally could communicate with her. And even to say, I love you, Mom, that wouldn't be real. It was more an energy experience called, I now know that I actually had a mother. And when she knew she was going to die immediately when I was born, she had advanced cancer at the time, she didn't bond with me because she wanted me to bond with my sister. So in fact, I couldn't bond with my sister as much as it looked like I was bonding with my sister. Again, witnessing allowed me to see that as much as I loved the sister, like to die for, I was trying to put a role on her that didn't exist. So now that I only had that one moment with my mother, and it was very healing, and it was over. It wasn't like I wanted to live in that moment. It was just nice to have a mother. And the beauty of my life, because I only had a sister, I never learned to say please and thank you. I never learned to kowtow to my parents. I don't even know if kowtow is a word, but I never did anything to please anybody else except myself. And I know that sounds terrible, but it also gave me a lot of wisdom, because really when I see you guys with your parents, it makes me sick. It makes me sick because I don't know if you love them or hate them, because it always looks like acting to me.
What do you see? What do you mean with you guys?
What I mean is people that, bend over backwards instead of saying, I'm alive, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that you brought me here, and I have my own life to lead.
Right.
And it may even disappoint you. I might even have times when I hate you. How many times do you say to your parents, in a good mood, I can't stand you? Now, of course, you can complain and bitch and moan and scream at them, and everybody understands, but I'm talking about when you're in a good mood. Did you ever say to your parents, thank you for bringing me here, but I'm really on my own now? The parents would be disappointed that you don't need them anymore. You'd be disappointed that you don't need them anymore. But really, life is about saying thank you and moving on. It's not about having parents for 95 years. It really isn't. That doesn't mean you don't have gratitude and appreciation, but you don't have a string tying you between your mother and you. That string has to be cut. And when I say that, I'm not discounting love. I'm discounting relationship. Relating is a great thing. You're still relating, but it's no longer mother and son, mother and daughter, father and son, father and daughter. This is not my expertise. I'm just saying what I see is people remain attached to each other to the point where blood is thicker than water. Instead of existence, exists.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, you're saying that people limit themselves too much in their freedom because of keeping the peace, basically.
Absolutely, and lying. And the thing about lying, it leads to lying. The thing about bad relationship, it leads to bad relationship. Now, here's something I just discovered myself, so I don't even know if it's true. But, when we're talking about abuse, sometimes people abuse again because they've never forgiven themselves. And if you don't forgive yourself, you tend to act the same way again. So all I'm saying is there is a time when you have to forgive yourself and move on, including false love for your parents. Even the love for your parents once you let them go is greater than the love you have while you're attached. That's all I'm saying. Maybe I'm crazy.
Do you feel that because of your youth, it was easier for you to step out of the programming and the usual way of thinking and to be open to other views on reality, and that you were a freer spirit in that sense?
I absolutely, and also it's very painful. Like sometimes I want to say to the listeners, because they're probably thinking, my God, basically I would have loved to have parents. I would come and kind of give up some of my freedom, to have had parents. I'm just saying what I've seen is I don't know what a parent is, and you know too much what a parent is. I'm just saying we're all alone, and at the same time we're all one. So don't give it a name called mother, father, Democrat, Republican, Dutch, German. Stop drawing lines all over your life, Get free. Lines become chains, So get free. That doesn't mean you can't put them back on, because then they become more...
Krishna, just before the break, or for this music, you said that it's very important to be lighthearted. So my next question is, what is the importance of playfulness and laughter in life?
Oh my gosh.
We're going deep. We're going deep on this Wednesday night.
Deep. I would just. I'm going to tie it into what I just said because I just want to say the best explanation for meditation I ever heard is to be a child with awareness. So it's easy to be a child because you have been a child, but we don't want you to act like a babbling idiot and call it meditation. So we need to add awareness, and that's a beautiful example. And I think that one of the things that happened all over the West is people took off their ties. Because when I first came back from India 40 years ago, I was in Wall Street in America, and I saw everybody with these tight ties on. And sometimes that just is a way to keep energy in your head, without it dropping into your heart and falling into your belly. So a beautiful thing is to be a child with awareness, but one of the best images is you're built like a thermometer. So your energy is in your belly, and then it rises through your heart and into your mind. So what happens is with the Buddha, they're sitting in their bellies laughing, giggling, celebrating, and then it passes through their heart and it comes out at laughter. You might even say the wrong thing, and that's what people are afraid of, to say the wrong thing. So basically, celebration for me is, instead of always coming from the heart and then, or coming from the mind, to actually come from who I am. Men oftentimes come from their mind, and then they fight with women because they come from their heart. But the real Buddha, he says yes, but he says come from the belly, into your heart, into your mind, and express yourself and express your love. So there is no such thing to a Buddha as a man and a woman. He would say there's only energy rising and celebrating love and laughter. And basically, without love and laughter, we might as well work 60 hours a week instead of 40 because we're wasting our lives.
Right. What is your favorite way to celebrate life?
Well, my gosh, my gosh, that's a great thing. My favorite way is sharing. I love women. The beauty of that is, even though I got a little older and my expression isn't necessary to make love, that women are still my favorite trees. So trees, yeah. In other words,
I don't know that expression.
Yeah, I love that. You see people hugging trees. I'd rather hug a person,
A woman.
A woman, yeah. I like women. I like men too. I enjoy my life. But for me, we are sexual beings, but when a child isn't so sexual, and a man my age is less sexual also. So in the middle, I had a lot of fun. And the beauty of that is I'm just an ordinary guy. I'm not a rock star. But I had so much fun that as I get older now, I find it easier and easier to let go. Easier and easier not to make demands on the other person. So oftentimes in my writing, people would say, "Oh, that would make me so jealous to be as open as you are." But I said, I'm not coming through a 32-year-old body that's dying to be naughty, I'm coming from a 65-year-old body that's dying to relax. So I don't want people to say, aha, I made love in high school and therefore I can be alone now. Because basically what happens is that because society oftentimes sits on our sexual energy, that it gets repressed.
What does that mean, society sits on our sexual energy?
Well, it doesn't want to, very, very few friends have expressed themselves sexually their whole life. So what happens is now you're 35, you have a job, you're feeling really good about yourself, and you want to make love to every single person that exists, not because you even like them that much, but because you weren't able to do that as a young man, for example. So what happens is we're always compensating for what we didn't live. I see it all the time, people, really being involved with women they don't want to be with, or women with men they don't want to be with, just to have done it,
or satisfy an addiction.
Yeah, it's that. Oh my gosh,
emotional or sexual addiction.
Absolutely, it's rampant, and it's not rampant because it's an addiction. It's rampant because you were never 16, you were never 17, you were never 18, and now you're 27, 28, 29. When you're mature enough to act differently, but you didn't have any fun as a kid. You got to make up for the fun.
You had a lot of fun in Pune, didn't you?
Oh, and my God. I had fun. What happened is, Osho is a pretty sexy guy, and he attracted a lot of women. So I would be around,
I'm thinking with the long beard, really?
My God, you wouldn't believe it.
No, I don't.
It was in Amsterdam one time as a younger man, because that I had a long beard, and I was only attractive to certain types
with long hair.
Yeah, and what happened is, it's really beautiful. I was in an encounter group, and the therapist said to me, your beard is not only growing long, it's growing out, and it's separating you from people. So I said, my gosh, I don't want that to happen. So I was in Amsterdam, and I actually cut my beard off for the first time in, say, 10 years. And when I walked out of the American Hotel, which is a very beautiful hotel because of the glass, it doesn't look very American, but it's very beautiful because
at the Leidsplein.
Yeah, what's that, Tiffany glass? What do they call that?
It's beautiful. It's Art Deco style.
Oh, that Art Deco, and you go and have a cup of tea, and you leave $300 there. But it's really a beautiful, beautiful place to have a cup of tea. And I walked out, and someone asked me, another American, where the Dam Square was, and I was so happy to finally know the answer to a question, as opposed to who is God and what is life. Because when you have a long beard, people only talk to you about spiritual things. Yeah, but if you shave your beard, they say, where's Dam Square?
You were back to the marketplace again.
Yeah, I like the marketplace. You
like the marketplace?
Two. I like both. I want to be comfortable in every way. I want to be comfortable meditating, but I also want to be comfortable at work. I want to be comfortable alone, but I love women. So it's about accepting what is without pressuring the other person to be part of my agreement, And
I think that's something people learn, hopefully they learn as they get older.
Yeah.
That they're more relaxed and they're more accepting about the other person. They don't take things so personally. They're less insecure, less neurotic.
Yeah, because it's all a playground to learn these things. What I'm saying is, it's very good to learn the lesson that you're living right now, instead of saying, I'm going to put it off for 10 years while I go to college, and I'm going to put off socializing because, I need a career. Because you eventually get the career, but you're so greedy for what you didn't participate in. So I often like to say to people that there's 48 hours in every day. So, because if I say to them, would you like to meditate for 20 minutes? They always say, we're too busy to meditate, So I say there's 24 hours a day when I'm talking to Femke, and there's 24 hours a day when I'm talking to myself. And so you have a lot of time to witness, and just begin to watch who you are and how you relate, and just add a little tingle of innocence to your conversation, a little tingle of the truth, how you're feeling right now, because we're all little kids, insecure, trying to get through the day. It's fun to share how you're doing emotionally, even with a suit and tie on. Women will really respect that, and vice versa. We need to learn to say, ooh, I'm acting like I know what I'm doing right now, but I don't. Do you like me enough to figure it out together? And I think that's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's what intimacy is. It's not about sharing only the stuff that works in you. No. It's about sharing what doesn't work and say, guess what? I'm willing to learn. I like you enough to learn. Most people say that at the divorce court. I wish I had said this to you when we were together. Why would it be that people find it so hard to show their the places where they are not in control, the places where they feel weak? Yeah, if I knew that, I could tell you, but I don't know. I'm just saying it begins with sharing it, emotionally how you feel, physically how you feel. Instead of nature being your boss, you become your boss. Very often you see the young kids, it's so cute, and the biology is running right through them, nature's running right through them, So it's basically, meditation would say, aha, this energy is running through that 22-year-old body of yours, but the outcome could be a baby. Is this what you want? Awareness. Awareness is so incredible. It's the best birth control technique there is. And Krishna, you wrote something that I found
quite fascinating in your book, G. You said, "Sex is my door to aloneness."
Wow, you said that?
Yeah, you
Isn't
said
that
that.
brilliant? That's brilliant. No, I didn't read my book for a while, but I'd love that. And so let me just say that, my God, women have been very good to me with my beard and without my beard, and and accepted me so much. And also, my body's always been honest. I hardly ever didn't do what I wanted to do. Sometimes I add a little persuasion, like a glass of wine or something like that. But basically, I've been very honest, and I just love women, and it allowed me to get over that period. When I talked about that young man that didn't have fun, I was talking about me. I was talking about I didn't know how to share. I didn't know how to play. I didn't know how to make love. And when I got older, I had such a great time that I realized I have to make up for lost time by being honest without hurting anyone. I think the best thing is that you find out everybody's in the game like that.
Everybody has the same insecurities and neurosis. And,
but incredible.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to listen to some more music. We'll be back with Krishna Prem after. I just explained to Krishna the lyrics of this song, and he thought it was cute, like he said, the word he always used, cute. Krishna, I think many listeners might not know that you're actually one of the first, or maybe the first one, to export Osho's teachings, to promote his teachings in the States. Can you tell us something about that period in your life?
Yeah, it's so cute because I sound pretty good tonight. I like what I'm saying. And but that wasn't always the case. I would be with Osho, and I wouldn't have anything to say because I felt like he knew everything. I didn't know anything. He was beautiful. I was ugly. There was a process going on, but and so he would get bored after a while. What is this guy sitting there? Because isn't that beautiful? He had energy and I didn't. How many situations have you been in? You've been in yourself where you have no energy and the person in the room is really exciting to you, but they leave because you didn't share with them. So I didn't have any give and take. I was one of the very first people to meet him. And but I was pretty hip also. I was starting to catch on, and he did the same thing my father would do. He would look at his watch. Now, when my father, I knew him for a while, when he looked at his watch, it meant I was supposed to get up and leave. So when I would be with Osho and he'd look at his watch, when my father did it, I wanted to get away from him. I didn't like the guy so much. My mother died. I didn't like him either. So, because he was fighting with my sister. Now, that's a beauty in itself, the father and the sister fighting about me while there was no make-up sex. So it was a drag to see them fight because they would never resolve it. You guys out there know more about make-up sex than I do. You have to send me an email. So basically what happened is Osho would look at his watch, and then I would say to him, California. And he would get so excited because every guru loves California because that's where all the people go that want to learn about meditation, usually through drugs, or that was in that day. And I would say California, and he would get really excited, and he would talk to me forever about California. And I remember because I used to just sit there and relax because now he was excited to talk to me. But lo and behold, I ended up in California. And I had no money. I had been in India for so long. My beard was so long, and I didn't have any money. And I met a guy. He was a real estate agent. And we went out for a cup of coffee because I wanted to start a gymnasium. In other words, active meditations, dancing, weightlifting, tennis, making love. Throw yourself into the body, then relax. Once the body release tension, everybody out here knows about the zone. There's a zone at every level. All of a sudden, your body is happening without you. So that was the idea, to move into dance where dancing happened without you. To move into tennis where dancing happened, where tennis happens without you. Many runners know that after 7 or 8 kilometers, all of a sudden your body is running and you're sitting on your shoulder saying, this is fun. This is effortless. My body's doing the work. On the first 8 miles, you're usually trying really hard, or kilometers. You're trying hard, but after a while, your body just starts to run and you can relax. So I wanted to do a Greek gymnasium, basically, with meditation. And the bill came. And it was only for 2 cups of coffee, and we were really excited, but it turns out he wasn't that great a real estate agent. He didn't have any money either. But the sharing, the waitress bought our coffee. It was so sweet. And he said, I get paid $50, that's about 40 euros, to show property, and we'll have 20 euros each, and we can actually have lunch. So we drove 2 hours into the desert east of Los Angeles, and we found a property. And I loved it. And he said, don't love it. I got the money already. The boss gave me the money. Here's your 20 euros. Here's my 20 euros. Let's get out of here. I said, no, I'm buying this property. And you're so untrusting, I want half of your commission. And it was a beautiful story because within one day I needed a $30,000 down payment. And within one day, all those people that I had been leading in meditation without charging them, I just called and said, I found a place where we can all live. I had $15,000 at the end of one day.
Which year are we talking about?
Oh, I know. We're dating myself now. 75.
75, right.
So not a penny, long beard. All of a sudden, I had $15,000, but I needed 30. It was a dude ranch. So the guy is cleaning his rifle, and I'm counting my beads. And my older brother walks in, and because I called him to see the property, he loved it. I said, Max, I got $15,000, and I need 30. And you know I'm a hippie, so this $15,000 will ruin my life. Here's all my money. Write me out a check for $30,000, and let's flip a coin. So we flipped the coin in front of Ralph, who owned the property, and I won. So he wrote me out a check for $30,000, and he left. I ran down to the bank. I put the money in the bank, and guess what happened? The check bounced. I called him, and I said, you know, I would kill you if you weren't my brother, so I'm just going to tell you that I'm going to kill you because maybe you want to hide out. And he said, oh, no. The check is good. I don't gamble, but I know that if you're willing to kill for this property, it's going to work. So that was the beginning of the biggest commune in America for Osho, because those people were driving up the driveway, you know, as that check was actually good. And then I had to pay my brother back. It was very beautiful. But I loved him for it, because what he said is, I don't gamble. I need to know you're going to kill. You know, I need to know you really want this.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't want it, it's not going to work. And this is what I mean. And I loved it because for me that was Zen. That was meditation in America. My brother enlightened me by saying, I don't gamble. Do you really want this to happen?
Mm.
And I did pay him back. And that was the beginning of an amazing time in my life. Because if you were in America, you would come through my place on the way to meeting Osho. And it was very, very beautiful. And I loved it, and it worked. It worked because people wanted it to work.
So you made it into, let's say, a meditation center where people also stayed. It was like a resort.
You could live there. We had as many as 200 people living
200
there.
people?
Yeah.
You were managing the place?
Yeah, amazing. And I was dying every day, pulling the hair out of my head. How
I was saying, this sounds like quite a job to me.
Yeah, this is from no money at all to running an empire. You know, I didn't have the tools, but I wanted it to happen. Osho wanted it to happen. But more importantly, the people wanted it to happen. And so I was pulling out my hair. Now, this is an example. I was pulling out my hair for the first 3 years thinking it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And then one day I just started laughing because it was working, whether I pulled my hair out or not. And I really had another life lesson called, it's working right now, and that's enough.
That's enough.
Yeah.
One step ahead.
One step ahead.
At a time.
Yeah. And so Osho was crazy about me because I pulled this miracle off in California. Again, whose idea was it? I used to just say California. He would talk to me for 2 hours. I'd end up in California, you know, and I did it. So did he call me? I don't know. Did he tell me what to do? I don't know, because masters actually don't tell you as much as people tell you they tell you.
Mm.
They always keep life mysterious. Life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. We in the West know how to solve a problem. When you know how to solve a problem, you get rid of mystery. Live your life like it's a mystery. You don't know shit, ladies and gentlemen. You don't know shit. All you know is you haven't accepted life as a mystery yet, you know. Get on with it. It doesn't mean don't do a great job. It means being intimate with the unknown. It's a wonderful experience. You don't know anything, and yet your life becomes intimate. You know, it's true. It's true. And you know, it's fun, you know, talking about the East and West. My sister Risa said to me, "What's your book about?" And I said, well, one example is when I went, you know, through Afghanistan, I learned a very important lesson when I went to India overland. The lesson was that if you leave your body with 5 friends, 5 people you can count on, 5 people you can share with, 5 people you can be honest without them reacting, you know, listening to you, you'll had a successful life. And my sister said, I was there when your sister mother told you that. And that's what I mean. I couldn't listen to anyone else. I learned through movement. There's a great expression in India, God is movement. Keep moving. Now that also means moving inside of yourself. So what I mean is there's no East and West. There's no India and Holland. Those are just divisions from that oneness we spoke about. There's one earth, and we act as if there's hundreds of countries, you know, and we separate these countries and we make it difficult for people to move, you know. But basically there's one universe, one earth with a lot of different countries, and that's okay for what day do we take out the garbage, but it's not okay for tell me who you are.
Right. And in what way would you like to move the audience this Friday night, the people who come to your workshop meditating on the inner lover?
Right. Basically, the inner lover is who you are. And it's very, very, very simple. Everybody dresses up for a stranger they haven't met yet. You know, everybody is looking for love in all the wrong places. And what the inner lover means is, I feel so good about myself. How can I not meet somebody? How can I not meet somebody? So instead of going out on a date, you go in and meet yourself and then just appear and have a date, you know. And you will then attract someone that also feels good about themselves. Not necessarily happy or sad, but who's looking at who they are. So basically, the workshop is all about tell me who you are, resting in your not knowing, feeling intimate, and saying to that friend, let's go out and have a drink and share what is life really about. You know?
And have you heard Byron Katie talking on this subject of the other or this special relationship? She says, if you want to meet the love of your life, look into the mirror.
Really, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
I like it, and I just feel like, yeah, that's beautiful. It's better that let's go to her workshop instead.
Well, I saw that you met her at the American Book Center. You shared a nice moment with her, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I met her, and she said, and it's a beautiful, exactly what I'm talking about. She said, "You look so shiny to me," and I said, "It's because I'm standing in front of you." You know, her shine created my shine. I didn't feel frightened, or I felt vulnerable and alive, and I was so thankful to be with a woman like that, you know, who says, my God, you're terrific. You know, nothing less than God.
Nothing wrong with you.
Nothing wrong with me. And of course I felt the same way about her.
What a relief, eh? We can be that with each other.
Yeah. It doesn't mean you don't comb your hair and get well dressed, but I'm just saying it's more important to share who you are right now, even if it's not perfect. In the East, we call it perfectly imperfect, you know.
Beautiful. Okay, we're gonna listen to some more music and then we will round off this show. Krishna was asking, is this applause for me? Because the song started with something that sounded like clapping indeed. Yeah. Oh, Krishna, we've covered so much. Oh my God. Let me see if I have a good question left. Oh, yeah, of course, tennis. What is tennis?
You know, I play a lot of tennis, and you can play tennis by hitting forehand after forehand, backhand after backhand, or you can trust your body that it learns, you know. And once your body learns how to play tennis, then again, getting out of your way. So who are you before you hit the tennis ball? Who are you after you hit the tennis ball? Because most people, especially when they serve, they throw the ball up, And if the ball went in, they thought it was a good serve. But I say you should know, and you can know, and you are knowing where that ball is going before you even throw it up in the air. So it's great to, again, be the center of your own cyclone. So what I'm saying is competition is a cyclone. Who you are is at the center of that cyclone. So the zenith is watching yourself play a sport, watching yourself make love. So that would be Zolve or something. In other words, watch yourself and then know that the cyclone is coming. The beauty of meditation when you begin is even when you sit in who you are, you're going to make one mistake after another. You're going to hit one bad serve after another if you're meditating without having any technique. Once you have the technique, get out of the way and just enjoy. And you can see
enjoy the cyclone.
Enjoy the cyclone, yeah, because the cyclone will turn into nice weather after a while,
But maybe only if you allow the cyclone to take full force or not.
Absolutely. Okay, here's the secret to me in my lifetime now. When the cyclone comes, I try not to build a house that the cyclone won't destroy.
Right.
I just let it happen, because the quicker that cyclone is over, the sooner the bliss will happen. So what happens if you feel a cyclone coming, emotional cyclone, and you build up a barrier where that other person can't get in, you learn nothing. Keep your life open. Keep your life open. And one other thing about sport, which I really love, I would much rather win 7-5 in the fifth set than win 6-love, 6-love, and 6-love. I want energy to return. I want to hit the ball, and I want the ball to come back as a circle of energy. I'm sharing energy, you're sharing energy. But I actually oftentimes say zenith is when I win and tennis is when I lose, because I still get a little crazy, a little crazy. But I can watch it, and if a guy's better than me, I can celebrate it. If he's not as good at me, I can teach. And I have a lot of fun in the Bondo Park playing tennis. I was lucky enough to become a member,
It's a great spot, huh?
Oh, my God. On a nice day in Amsterdam, playing tennis, it's almost like being in heaven. Really, really. Of course, it could rain within a moment of that thought. But again, enjoy heaven while you can.
Exactly. Well, dear listeners, if you want to attend the workshop that Krishna Prem is giving this Friday, there are still some seats left, not many. So you want to be quick and send me an email at femke@abc.nl. And this workshop will start at 7 o'clock in the evening until 9 o'clock. And Krishna will teach us all about love and meditation, and the subject is meditating on the inner lover. And the location is the ABC Treehouse, which is at the Voetboogstraat 11. Krishna, if people want to find more about your work, about your book, which of course is available at American Book Center, GURU, and it's also available online and on your own website, where should people go to get more information about you and your teachings?
Wow, I'm all over. You can just look me up on Facebook. That's Krishna Prem, 2 words, and I love my Facebook page because it's just fun and naughty.
But maybe there will be many Krishna Prems.
No, I'm sure I come up top of the pop.
Oh, okay.
I'm top of the pops. I'm the top Krishna Prem. And by the way, if you look up another Krishna Prem and he's not insane, that's not who I am. So look for the Krishna Prem that's totally crazy and loves you, and that's me.
And your website is?
Oh my gosh, it's forget about my website. Just come by the American Bookstore and get my book. I've signed some copies for you. I'd love to meet you. I'm a little worried we're going to be overrun on Friday night, but we're going to squeeze everybody in no matter what.
I think there will be around 50 people, but we'll squeeze everyone in, and it will be really nice.
And my book is there for sale, and I'll also have a free business card for you, but don't be concerned about websites. Be concerned about life. Come and see me. I think you'll say thank you. And if you don't, that's fine with me. Really fine with me.
Yeah, great. And you're also available for meditation classes and for individual sessions after you're back from India, because you're going back to India.
I'm going to be back in Holland in the spring. and I'd love to be in touch with you, but I can't make any promises. Try and come Friday night, or write to Femke, and she'll forward it to me. I'm a little bit difficult to get a hold of because I'm going to India, but I'm always back in Amsterdam because I like it here a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krishna Prem, and